So you want to make pulled pork sandwiches, but you're all out of buns? Well, you might think to yourself, hey, this grocery store rye bread is pretty expensive. It has a fancy German name that I can't pronounce, has some nice packaging. You know, it's a little bit flimsy, but I've made sandwiches with it before. Just pop it on the table, throw some pork on top. But no, you know what? No, we're not going to do that today. No. Get rid of the bread, because I'm going to teach you how to make some sweet-ass buns. Alright everybody, grab yourself a kitchen scale and an instant read thermometer. Next, you're going to need to grab a glass measuring cup and some milk. You're going to want to weigh out about 120 grams of milk, or half a cup if you want to be less accurate. Bring it on over to your microwave and microwave it for about 10 to 20 seconds. Your goal here is to hit about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. You just don't want to go over 100 or you're going to start to get some weird tasting milk. Next, grab yourself some yeast. I know it's kind of hard to come by during the pandemic, but if you're connected to the yeast underground, you should be set. Now it's time for our yeasty friends to take a nice hot milk bath. Grab yourself a spoon and you're going to want to measure out about 9 grams or 1 tablespoon. Pour those guys in there and get them all nice and warm and happy, and surprise yourself by getting 9 grams exactly. And then close your lid up and honestly put that yeast somewhere hidden. Hide that stuff. It's so hard to come by. And then grab yourself a whisk. I like to use a little whisk attachment for a hand mixer. Whisk those yeasties up until they're no longer clumped together. Then you're going to want to pop them into your oven with the light on. This will provide them with the perfect environment to get them nice and active. Next up, we're going to make our Tangzhong. If you're familiar with roux, this is basically a water roux. First, you're going to measure out 20 grams or about 2¼ tablespoons of bread flour. Add 12 grams or just under 2½ teaspoons of water. And finally, pour in 75 grams or about 1/3 of a cup of milk. Grab that trusty whisk again and give it a good whisking until it is a nice and smooth consistency. Now it's time to head on over to your stovetop. Grab yourself a spatula and you're going to want to turn your heat on to about medium. You want to continuously stir and scrape the bottom of your pot because you don't want the sticking and burning to the bottom. You'll see that it's going to slowly start coming together and thicken over time. I raise my pot off the element at times in order to control the amount of heat so that I don't burn it. It'll start coming together pretty quickly and resemble some of the worst mashed potatoes you've ever seen. Once it sticks together in a nice little thick clump like that, that means it's done. So set it aside and cover it so that it doesn't dry out. Now it's time to make our dough. Grab yourself a big old bowl and some bread flour. Measure out 300 grams, and nope, no cups this time, folks, because it's time to be accurate. Next, add 6 grams of salt. I'm using Fancy Pants Pink Himalayan Sea Salt, but any salt will do just fine. Grab yourself some sugar and pour in 30 grams. Yep, 30 grams. You'll thank me later. Give those dry ingredients a little whisk for about 30 seconds to make sure they're all mixed together. Alright, at this point you might have forgotten about our little friends hanging out in the oven, but now it's time to go get them. The milk should look nice and frothy on top. This means your yeast is active and ready to make some bread. Give it a good whisk and pour it into your dry ingredients. I prefer using my hands, but if you have a stand mixer with a dough hook, feel free to use it. You'll end up with a smoother finish with a lot less work. Mix your dough until it looks shaggy like this. Alright, go grab your Tangzhong and add it to your dough. It's going to be pretty sticky, so make sure you get as much of it off your spatula as you can. Like, look at that, seriously, look how sticky that stuff is. Come on. Get in there. Okay, there we go. Cool. Alright, now it's time to get to work. Get your hands in there and start kneading your dough. You're going to want to knead it for about a minute or two, and as you're kneading it, you'll notice the texture will start to change from shaggy to more of a dough consistency. Now, reach deep into your pockets and pull out 2 eggs. You're going to add 1 egg plus 1 egg yolk to your dough. Now get your hands back in there and start kneading. It's going to take you a few minutes now actually to get that egg incorporated and to get a nice smooth consistency with your dough. It might feel real squishy and loose in the beginning, but just keep going and you're going to see it start to come together. As you can see here, it's going to be really sticky and really sticky. Just use your hand to scrape your fingers off there and try to get it all in the bowl. And once you're done with that, head on over to your sink and wash those hands off. Now weigh out 45 grams of butter, tear it up into little pieces and chuck it into your bowl just like this. Next, you guessed it, more kneading. Grab that butter and run it between your fingers because the heat from your hand is going to melt it. Now keep kneading for about 5 more minutes and the dough will slowly start to come together and change consistency as you keep kneading. Next, we're going to do what is called the relied method. This helps develop the gluten in the dough and it's what gives it its texture and its shape. And it's not really that difficult. All you need to do is get your fingers under the dough, lift it up, and slap it back down in the bowl. You want to move in circles around the dough and keep doing this for a few minutes until you notice the dough coming together and becoming more of a taut ball. And at this point, you should be able to pick it up out of the bowl and it shouldn't stick to your hands too much. Next, grab some olive oil and pour it into the bowl and mix it around so that the whole thing is greased on the inside. Move your bowls aside and dust off your workspace a little bit because next, we're going to shape our dough. The first step in shaping our dough is folding. What you want to do is grab the top, fold it to the center, and then do both of your sides, and then turn your dough around and finish off that last end. Pick it up, pin it to the middle. Now turn the dough over and you want to form a little cup with your hands, put your pinkies together and pull that dough towards you. Keep using the tension against the table to actually form a nice little tight ball. Now take that ball of dough and toss it into your greased bowl and then go grab yourself some plastic wrap and put it over top. You want to make sure that you don't have any gaps because it's going to dry out your dough and you don't want dry dough. Now pick up your bowl. Look at that happy little dough in there. Okay, pick up the bowl and go put it in your oven with the light on. And about an hour later, you're going to want to go get your dough out of the oven and realize it's not so little anymore. All right, now dump it out onto your work surface and give it a little slap. Next, grab your trusty bench scraper and you're going to want to cut the dough down the middle, right in half there. And then you're going to want to cut both of those halves into thirds, just like that. Next, grab your kitchen scale and you're going to want to weigh these out to be about 100 grams each. If they weigh too much, just rip a little bit off there and set it to the side. And then when you have one that weighs under 100 grams, just add one of those pieces back in. And then finish off the rest of them. They don't have to be perfect, but try to get them as close to 100 grams as possible. Once they're all weighed, put the scale to the side and we're going to want to do our folds again. Except this time, instead of just going to the middle, go all the way to the opposite edge. So you're going to want to do the bottom, the sides, and the top again. And next, I like to pinch the bottom together because it makes it a little bit easier to form a ball on our work surface. Now, place your dough back down and you want to form that cup again with your hand. Put your pinkies together, place them at the edge of the dough, and pull the dough towards you. You're going to want to do this a few times until you start to form a nice ball. And make sure you're dragging it across the table because that's what's going to give you the proper tension and seal the bottom of your ball. Next, make a C shape with your pinky and your thumb. And you're going to want to do the same thing you did before, but with one hand. This will help you achieve a much better shape. With this technique, practice makes perfect. Don't expect it to be perfect the first time you do it. After you've formed your dough, go grab some parchment paper and set them on top. And then, give them a little love because they've been through a lot. And then place them on top of a baking sheet and cover them with saran wrap. And you guessed it, back in the oven with the light on they go, where we're going to let them rise for about an hour. And after they've risen for an hour, we're going to make an egg wash. Crack that egg into a bowl and then give it a real nice whisk until it's nice and foamy. And then add a splash of milk and keep whisking until it's all incorporated. Now remove those buns out of that warm oven and remove that plastic wrap. This is also when you're going to want to preheat that oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And then go grab the egg wash we just made, give it a stir, and then you're going to want to douse these puppies with that egg wash. You don't have to rush too much here, but try to be quick because as you can see, they start to deflate pretty quickly. And then once you're done, pop them into your oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 to 20 minutes. But once they look like this, pull them out because they're ready. Okay, now pick up a bun. Be careful because it might be hot. And you're going to want to peel off all those extra little eggy bits on the bottom of the buns. And once you've done that, heat up a couple tablespoons of butter in the microwave and you're going to want to brush that butter all over these buns. Next, go grab some fancy pants salt and sprinkle that on there too. And there we have it, folks. Look at that beautiful bun. So much better than that other stuff. Yeah, that stuff right there. All right, let's cut that baby open. Take a look at the crumb. Beautiful. All right, now that our buns are done, I'm going to heat up some pulled pork I made recently. Going to toss in some homemade apple pie barbecue sauce and stir it in there. Now that our pulled pork is ready, it's time to assemble. And don't you worry, pulled pork and apple pie barbecue sauce recipes will be coming soon. You really think I'm going to mention pulled pork and apple pie barbecue sauce and not share it with you? Come on, guys. All right, so pile that pulled pork high on that bun and then get yourself some of that apple pie barbecue sauce and spread it on top. And last but not least, coleslaw. If you're making pulled pork sandwiches, you need coleslaw. Trust me on this one. It provides an acid that balances out the fat from the pork and the sweetness from the barbecue sauce. The crunchy texture also adds a great contrast to the tenderness of the pork. Now place that bun on top and give that plate a clean. And there you have it, a homemade pulled pork sandwich on a beautiful Japanese milk bun. Remember to like and subscribe because the food you cook at home doesn't have to suck.